Good morning, social media friends. To all of you who are tuning in today's episode of Real Living in Nashville, Tennessee. My name is Bill. For those of you who may be watching today's episode for the first time, and by the way, in honor of today's episode, for you, but actually kind of for me, I donned my country western shirt. I'm trying to do the Johnny Cash look, where if I remember, he loved dressing in all black. So I don't know, just something crazy I'm doing to jumpstart my hump day. And maybe, just maybe, wherever you're at watching today's episode, my little humor might just jumpstart your day. So with all of that said, my co-host is getting ready to show up for us. She's going to talk about a lot of stuff that I think will benefit you, all of you that are in the Nashville area, all of you who may be thinking about, hey, I need to be in Nashville, the music capital of the US. So as Denise is getting ready, let's get her fan club to give her a nice warm welcome and an applause. Here we go, fan club. By the way, this one fan that you're going to see, this one last guy, he's hilarious to me. The guy in the hoodie and the cap, right? So Denise, how did you like that fan club showing up for you today?
That was pretty great. I had no idea I had those fans.
You have those fan clubs.
I had no idea.
And your fans are from all walks of life, all demographic segments, especially that last guy with the hoodie and the cap. Let's be real. In today's world, we should never judge or prejudge because the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, they tend to do the hoodie and cap thing.
Yeah, Sam Walton drove an old truck. Right? Warren Buffett drives, I think, isn't it a OPD or something like that? Yeah.
Yeah. So you just never know until you get to know someone, right?
You just never know. You never know. People come from all walks of life, and everybody has something that's important to them, may or may not be important to me.
Yes, exactly. So for today's episode of Real Living in Nashville, Denise, let's warm you up with the stuff that I know you do day in, day out. You probably do it in your sleep, in a way. And that is how to help clients work through their life events, make the move, the transitions, and the underlying foundation of that is, of course, real estate. What's going on with the real estate market in Nashville, Tennessee?
It's pretty steady. If you look at numbers comparing 23 to 24, we're still above that number. We had a nice little bump in January and February. It seemed, I think we talked on the last call a little bit about how that it felt like people made their New Year's goal to go buy a house. And we heard lots about the interest rates and all of these reductions. We've seen one rate reduction, but it seems that rest of the year is going to be when we'll see the rates possibly in Q3, end of Q3, Q4. So we'll see a lot more buying at that point. However, that being said, anytime your rates drop, your prices go up. So there's an inverse relationship. So we're seeing people who are getting in front of the curve, if you want to say.
Yeah.
And we had a really good month as a market in January, February. March was a little less so, but now the spring market has picked up. Condos are not doing quite as well as before. But what we're seeing is that we're getting lots of listings on the market. In fact, next week is the #1 week to put your home on the market.
Really? Wow.
Yes. And, people find these numbers, and except for the anomaly of the pandemic, 2020, Otherwise, that is the best week to put your home on the market. So we're expecting to see lots of new listings there. I have 4 coming, 5 in the next 2 weeks. So lots of great things that if someone hasn't found just the right home, I imagine they can find it in the next week. Conversely, if you have a home that you're considering selling, now might be the time to reach out to your realtor and see what your home is worth. Does it make sense to make that move?
Right.
Is there somewhere that you've been really excited about moving, hadn't pulled the trigger, and you find that you have more equity than you ever dreamed in your home? So now, instead of finding out that, you're dreaming of your new home and you can move there. So,
Yeah.
the market's pretty steady. It hasn't changed a lot. Nashville's in the news a lot. Today, it was just named one of the top metros in the country to move. So, we have music, we have green space.
Yes, you do.
And
You have lakes, a
we
lot
have
of fishing.
lakes. We don't have income tax, state income tax, which is
Ah,
very nice. So you have a little more money to live on. Our houses are still, in the scheme of the country, our house prices are still reasonable. They have gone up a lot here, so it's a little tightening for our belt. But young people love to move to the city because of all it offers.
yeah.
And don't forget the friendly people. That
Yes,
probably our
that's for
greatest
sure.
attribute.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, because you and I are at the very core native Tennesseans, even though right now I'm not living in the volunteer state. Yes, I absolutely remember, the Southern hospitality and all of the warmness, the welcomeness
Yes.
of Tennesseans. So with what you just shared with us, you're telling us that it's a stable market. There's supply, but the interesting part of it is the demand is not kind of dropping. The demand is still there, right?
It's steady. It's
Yeah,
steady. It's
yeah,
not crazy like it
yeah.
was in 20 through 22.
Right,
It's
right,
not quite that crazy,
right.
but people who bought homes early in the pandemic, they have a lot of equity in their home. So
Yeah,
now they're saying, I think it's safe to come out of the woods. I feel like I can buy now and refinance later.
yeah, yeah. And
Dave
there's that.
Ramsey loves to say that.
That's right. There's that catchy phrase I'm sure you and I have heard. What is it? Marry the home, date the rate.
That's right.
Uh,
That's right.
yeah.
That's right.
So with that, let me bring up into our live stream conversation or episode today. I know one property that you're actively selling, and that is this property here in Nashville, right off of
Yes.
Vanderbilt Place, correct?
Yes, it's the other side of the street is Vanderbilt.
Got it.
So it is incredibly walkable. I was there yesterday, saw a lot of students, whether they were Vanderbilt students. It's also very popular with the medical student and the PhD programs at
Yeah.
Vanderbilt, who are also at Vanderbilt University Medical Center.
Yeah, I can
It's
see that.
gated, it's security, you have
Yeah.
gated parking, you have a fitness center, you have a great pool, as you can see,
Yep.
and you have some space there. You have a nice room where you can go watch football, and you're just showing the pictures of the garage.
Yeah, yeah. And so for the segment of buyers, we know is one of the fastest segments, young female professionals. Yes, this nice enclosed garage gives you, protection for your car if you have to have one to get around. And also just gives you that feeling that, hey, once you come home, you're in your nice, safe haven. So wonderful listing. And as I look at it, look at the price point, I mean, I can easily do the math. I'm sure you can too. Why not own something like this as opposed to renting it? Because at the end of the day, you're paying somebody's mortgage.
Absolutely, might as well be yours.
Might as well be yours. Might
Might
as
as
well
well
be
be
yours.
yours.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so therefore you benefit from all of the financial incentives of being your own landlord. So thank you for sharing with me that you've got this active listing for sale. And it's so funny and coincidental, Denise. I'm going to drop this in front of you. As we were talking about this listing of yours, right? We talked about like, oh, well, how close is it to Vanderbilt Medical School? And you're like, it's really close. And then I leaned in and I said, oh, Denise, I'm wondering if this might be the place that one of my family members bought, owned, and rented out to their daughter. And lo and behold, we figured out it is.
What are the chances? What are the chances? But there's not that many buildings that are that close to Vanderbilt.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's great.
Yeah, and for those of you who are going to Vanderbilt University, specifically even Vanderbilt Medical School, yes, this kind of property, makes perfect sense because, who wants to deal with driving and parking if you can just kind of walk to your destination along with Starbucks in hand?
Starbucks is at the back end of the building.
It's all right.
The back end is Starbucks. Yeah, there's some great places there. There's a honey baked ham. There's a well, it's called Nation's Deli, 51st Deli. Oh my goodness, the best sandwiches you've ever had.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so great because for me and you, in about an hour and a half, it is quote unquote lunchtime for us. Yeah. So let's now talk about. I want to get your input to this question. Who do you see right now moving into, and of course, maybe this happens as well, moving out of the Nashville area? Can you kind of describe loosely some of the personas of those households?
Some of the people that are moving out of Nashville, and pardon the noise in the back, my cat, who has never played with this toy ever, has chosen this moment to play with a little toy behind me. So I'm sorry. Hey, it's hilarious. But people that are moving out of Nashville, more than anything, they're people who are moving to be near their grandchildren or
Yeah,
to family. That's
right.
what we see more than anything. We're seeing, but conversely, there's a lot of people in their, that have children and therefore grandchildren, and the grandparents are moving here
Yeah,
to be near them.
yeah,
So we've definitely, but there's 100 people a day, a positive 100 people a day moving to the Nashville area.
yeah,
So we're in a positive way. A lot of people, as we talked about last time, they're just not leaving. They're
yeah.
coming to school here, or, we have several universities besides Vanderbilt,
That's right.
Belmont, David Lipscomb,
Yeah,
TSU, some
yeah,
great universities, and people decide that they like the friendliness of the area and they
yeah,
stay.
yeah.
So people moving out, some people are moving to Seattle and other
Mm,
places like that, and it's tech,
yeah,
it's tech.
it's
However,
right.
Amazon has offices here now.
Yeah, well,
So
Amazon's kind of everywhere, but you're right.
they
Yeah,
are.
they are everywhere. And that absolutely makes sense, right? People move for the life events that call their name. It's either to be closer to their family members, to their friends, and third, right? A new job, more income, new home.
Right, right. As you say, the 4 Ds, right?
Yeah, yeah. So with that, as part of the core of our segment today, I want to share with you someone who's going to talk about and speak to her experience living in Nashville, Tennessee. And by the way, this is a previously recorded segment. So full disclosure. So enjoy this short conversation for the next 5 to 10 minutes. Here we go. Hello, social media friends. My local friends here in the Chicago area, friends of my other friends, and friends of my family members. For those of you who may be watching this content, once we go live and share this in a bigger way. For many of you who know me, you know that my business revolves around what I call the 5 Ds of real estate. Let me share with you the first three because the first three really matters more right now. The first one is diamonds. The second is diapers. The third, unfortunately, this happens, divorce. So for that reason, guys, I am so excited today. Why? Because one of my family members, my oldest niece, has been gracious enough to share her time with me to talk about that second D, diapers. So as I prepare her to join me in this virtual conversation, let's make sure she's available. So 1 second. Let's welcome her into the room, everyone. Hello, Dr. Annie Apple. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. That was very cute.
It's so true. You live the life of a young physician in a niche that is, I would say, 24/7, right? You're always on demand, right?
Yeah.
And you, I would say, you are in a profession where you've worked hard, you work long, tireless hours to care for others, and specifically, as I understand from your mother, you have chosen to be a gynecologist, correct?
Yep, that's right.
All
Yes.
right.
In my residency right now which is both obstetrics and gynecology, but yeah, hoping to do fellowship in gynecology only. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
All right. So for all of you women out there, there's a lot of you, girlfriends, spouses, sisters, mothers, etc., etc. Welcome. Let's give a nice warm round of applause for Dr. Annie Apple as part of our live conversation today. So Annie, I've got to start off asking this first question. I know as you were growing up, after you finished college, you had this big decision to make, and that was obviously, where do you go for your medical school training? How did you come upon your decision to decide on Vanderbilt Medical School in Nashville, Tennessee?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. At that time, I had graduated from Duke, and then I was working at Duke for like a community program at the time, and so I took a gap year, so to speak, and was like really applying, throughout mostly the East Coast for medical school. And so part of it comes down to like where you get interviews and where you get offers, but I did want to be on the East Coast because I wanted to have some social support, be close to family, and our family is mostly on the East Coast at that time. So that was a big component. And then Vanderbilt specifically, because, our family was from Tennessee back in the day and like had moved around a lot growing up, but still had my dad's side of the family in Nashville. So that was a big plus. And then, of course, like factors related to the program. So they have like a big community feel, but it is a big academic medical center, exposure to all the different specialties. And I think also at that time, living in Durham, I wanted to go to like a bigger city with kind of like more going on in my early 20s. And so Nashville was like the perfect place. And Vanderbilt just happened to, check all the boxes that I was looking for.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's so important when you're making that move to go start your new life in a city. It certainly helps when you have, the support of either friends, close friends, family members. So so when I heard from your mother that, yes, I'm going, Annie's going to Vanderbilt, I'm like, oh yeah, close enough to your in-laws. That's helpful.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
For when you decide you're tired of fast food, right? Someone can at least welcome you to their home for like a home cooked meal.
Yes, definitely a lot of home cooked meals and like holidays. It was really easy because I didn't know what my schedule was going to be like, but like, being able to just, go to my aunt's for Easter or whatever the case may be, like was a nice added perk when like it can be stressful, obviously, during medical school. So that was good.
Yeah. For those of you who are listening in to my conversation with Dr. Annie Apple, and if you happen to be from Tennessee, go Volunteers. If you happen to be from the Nashville metro area, that's a pretty large swath of area. Hey, welcome. Thank you for joining us. By all means, as you're watching this, feel free to drop your social comments. Maybe saying to Dr. Annie Apple, hey, I know you through 6 degrees of separation because maybe, just maybe Dr. Annie Apple delivered a baby that you know. or maybe you share some friends in common. That can be just as important as well. So, Annie, when you lived in Nashville, downtown Nashville, how important was it for you to live as close to the medical school, the medical center? I'm assuming it probably was not only important, but also useful, because when I was in Nashville, by the way, for your wedding, it was amazing to me as to how much traffic there was.
Yeah.
So was it helpful for you to live in downtown Nashville?
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely a priority when I was considering places to live. I did want to be, I mean, this is like pretty specific, but I did want to be within walking distance of the hospital.
Right.
Again, just not knowing what your schedule is going to be, and knowing that, especially with the clinical rotations in the later years, the hours can be kind of unpredictable. And so I wanted to be able to get to the hospital easily and quickly. And I also knew that, like, from hearing from other students, that that's where most of the students lived, like in the West End neighborhood, which is like right by the Vanderbilt campus. So that's kind of where I targeted my search. And I think it was, like I loved living in that area. All my friends lived there. A lot of my friends even lived in the same apartment building as I ended up living in. So it was super convenient, a really nice community feel. And obviously didn't have to deal with traffic because I would just walk every day. So nice.
You got in your steps.
Yes.
And also for those crazy hours that I know and I hear you medical school students and residents have to endure, it just made it a little bit easier, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I think the traffic has changed too over time. Like, I think obviously Nashville has been growing a lot over the last 10 years or so. And so even during my time, it got more busy and the traffic was a lot worse. So that just made, being able to walk wherever I was trying to go to either work or restaurants, shopping, like all of that was right in that area. So it was super nice.
Yeah. So as we wrap up our short conversation today, where does your next chapter lead you?
Yes, that is a good question. So I'm in Philadelphia right now, as you know, finishing up my residency in the next year or so. So, and then after that, I'll be applying for fellowship. So again, like on the job search essentially, and trying to, stay open-minded to any program across the United States. So stay tuned, and we will let you know.
Might it lead you back to Nashville?
Maybe, yeah. I would
Really?
love to go back. So yeah, I love Nashville.
Okay. All right. So one last question for the young physicians who are coming up behind you, for the nurses that support you physicians, and also just young professionals in general who may be considering and having to move to Nashville, what would you tell them?
I would definitely highly recommend it. I think it's like an amazing place to live and work. I think it's very livable city. There's so much green space. The food is amazing. The nightlife is amazing. The music, obviously amazing. So enjoy it and have fun. And I think in terms of real estate, obviously that's more, your area of expertise. But I do think that it seems like it's a great market for it. And I know friends who have bought houses, the value has only increased over time. And so I think it's a great investment.
Yeah. Well, for today. Once again, Annie, thank you for squeezing me in your weekend, which I know is very precious to you. So until we talk again in the near future, and maybe the next conversation that we have when I bring you back in, you'll share in a big way, where the heck are you gonna go?
Yeah, maybe so. Time will tell.
All right. Thank you for joining me today. Audience members, stay tuned as we learn more about the next chapters of Dr. Annie Apple. So there you go, Denise.
That was great.
Words spoken from one of our young professionals who really benefited from her time in Nashville and all of the valuable reasons why people love Nashville, right?
Yeah, I loved what she said about the community feel and how it's such a livable city, and why she chose where she chose in Nashville, the condo building that she could just walk right to class, which is so nice, so very nice.
It is nice.
And what a coincidence!
It is. What a coincidence!
That also, it just proves the point. That's the great building to live in when you're going to school at Vanderbilt.
True that, true that. So, audience members, as Denise and I wrap up today's episode of Real Living in Nashville, if you need to start a conversation with Denise and or myself, we've made it quite simple for you to do so. All you need to do is simply scan this QR code. It will launch very easily a way for you to reach out to Denise and or myself. And Denise, until I see you again in the next episode 2 weeks out, I hope you enjoy your day today, and I hope your cat enjoys her new toy.
There, you missed it during the video. It's sat on my chair. I think I'll have to put them in a room from now on. But one last note.
Yes.
Go Vols.
Yes, go Volunteers. All right, audience members, see you in the next episode 2 weeks out. And for now, have a great hump day, everyone.
Bye.